Okay, so hello everyone, I'm your Women's Officer this year, and we're just going to have a little discussion about the theme for Women's Week, which is the Choose to Challenge theme. So if everyone would just like to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Ellie Piper, I'm the Vice President of Activities.
Hi, I'm Chloe Hallam and I'm your Student Council Chair.
So it's the Choose to Challenge theme this year, which is basically to tackle inequality and gender bias. So I just wondered, what does gender inequality and gender bias mean to each one of you, and how would you kind of explain it? So Ellie, do you want to go first?
Yes, so gender inequality to me really is like the double standards between like male and female on a night out. I've had it many a times being on a night out and a male has grabbed my arse. I don't know who they are, and it's like, please don't. And you have to, and I think it goes with like the theme of like choose to challenge. You have to like stand up for yourself and be like, don't do that, I don't know you. And I just think it's really like unusual, like that males can think that that's really okay, and that's like very unequal. Because if I did that, I'd be like, what on earth's going on? I hate it.
Yeah, I think it does specifically happen on nights out as well. Having that inequality that girls have to feel that they're ashamed of what they're dressed like or how they're acting, and have to think, oh, am I going to be okay tonight? And they might be intimidated by other males. So I do think that that's a big thing for inequality, that girls have to think about that, whereas lads don't think about it. And I think it shows that on nights out specifically, that males do need to change the way that they're thinking towards women, and kind of taking their feelings on board, really. Chloe, what would you say inequality and bias kind of is or means to you?
I think I definitely agree with what you guys are saying about like nights out and stuff, and sort of expanding on that, like definitely into the wider world. Like I could walk down the street in Ormskirk and be stared at, spoken to, wolf whistled. It happens near daily, and it's just like it reaches a certain point where I shouldn't have to feel vulnerable walking down the street just to my local shop, and to be intimidated because of the way that I'm dressed, the way that I look. I just think there's so much pressure put on appearances, and that to actually choose to challenge like the theme, it can be quite intimidating, but is definitely something that is so important.
Yeah, I think that it's a big thing is that people seem to think that they have the right to be able to call people out, and say, or like wolf whistle at you or say horrible things to you, especially inappropriate environments, kind of like when you're having a good time, when you're out on nights out and that kind of thing. And it is about just having the confidence and choosing to challenge and kind of saying, no, it's not okay. So that kind of leads me on to my next point is, how do you think we could kind of reach an equal society and have like gender equity? Ellie?
I don't know which one was going to go first. I think to reach it is like exactly what we've said. Like if stuff like this does happen, don't be afraid to say your opinion and say that this is wrong. Because if it's not challenged, there's going to be no change, and it won't change. And then we've gone through so many years of women building other women up. We've changed so much. We've gone from a housewife in the kitchen to so many women bosses, so many women lawyers, to be honest. And it's great to see. It's so nice to see that women are becoming this strong, independent breadwinner. And like a big thing of it, the equality is not just obviously challenging it, it's obviously empowering each other as well. So I've seen before, if there was a woman and she got felt up by this man in a club, and she challenged him, and she was like, well, why are you doing that? I don't know, you don't do that. And started screaming and shouting at him. And this other woman, like she didn't know, turned around and was like, well, why are you shouting at him for? What are you screaming at? And it's like, that's not what we should be doing. we should be supporting everyone else. Like, that is wrong. It's her body and she shouldn't be touched by someone she doesn't know.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing as well, is the women, if we stand up for ourselves or others, we tend to get quite a lot of negative feedback where people will be like, oh, why are you being so nasty? Why are you being so horrible? Why? I've not done anything wrong. And I feel like that if you do call people out for it, it's straight, they're very negative towards you. Whereas it's kind of like the same thing as like no means no. Like, if I say that that's not appropriate, if I say no, if I don't want you to touch me like that or do that, it's no. And I feel like it's a lot of more acceptance needs to come. More people need to understand that, okay, if that has hurt somebody's feelings or upset somebody, I need to take that on board and consider that, instead of just being like, no, it's their fault, they're being whatever, nasty, they're being a bitch or whatever. So, and that's definitely something that needs to change, especially to reach an equal society, is to have kind of equal rights. And if a male turned around and said you can't do that, then it's vice versa. But it's definitely something that needs to be done to be reached. Chloe, have you got anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so just kind of linking on to that with like the whole sort of respect sort of thing. It's like it's about boundaries and respecting those. And if, as you said, a male can have his boundaries respected, if you enter my personal space and I'm not comfortable with it, I have the right to tell you to back off. More often than not, though, I find like when I challenge people that do things that I don't like, they can go very quickly from complimenting me to swearing at me, calling me names. And there's that sudden change of, if I don't accept what I deem inappropriate, I'm all of a sudden the bad guy. And it's like, no, you need to respect my personal space, my boundaries, the limits that I set for you. My comfort matters more to me than your compliment.
Yeah.
And I think that can be applied to the greater world, like in the world of work, social life. There's a lot of things at the moment about like people trying to budge past you by grabbing you by the waist. That's very common in workplaces and not deemed appropriate. I myself want to go into teaching, and I know that I've been told I'll have to work doubly hard to become a head of department, which is what I want to do. And I think without gender equity, that's why I'm going to have to work so hard. And that just shows the discrepancy that still exists. Like, we've come so far, but we've still got so far to go.
Yeah, I think you do need to take that into consideration. Like, we spoke a bit about how on nights out and how girls are getting approached with negatively, and that's how it's in inequality. But you also need to take it into the workplace and kind of more formal environments. It still exists. You've got like the gender pay, which still is not by any means equal. And yeah, as you say, like, there's such double standards in many workplaces. Women find it harder to get to certain places. Women have to dress differently. I still think it's bizarre how women can turn up to work and get told that they look like not professional enough for wearing like certain skirts and whatever. Like, as a trainee teacher myself, I have to be careful of the length of my skirt, the length of my dresses, and what I'm wearing to make sure that I look professional. Whereas I think sometimes if you've got a skirt that's above the knee, it shouldn't mean anything, as long as it's not like too short. But yeah, I definitely think that it needs to be looked at in a more kind of professional and formal environment too. There's a lot to change there, which kind of goes on to gender stereotyping, that I think would be a good thing to discuss. So I know that there's lots of stereotypes at the moment flying around, and it always has been, but we're trying to break them down, and that's the choose a challenge thing, is to break down inequality and bias. And I think that by breaking down the stereotypes for gender that we've got, it's a really good step forward. So has anyone got anything to add, Ellie, maybe about stereotyping?
It was kind of like I was saying before, like, women have come such a long way from being like regarded as the housewife, the bearer of children, and then the men were just like the breadwinners, the be all and end all of the family, really. But obviously we've moved on so far of that, but there's still that in the workplace. Like, women are still sexualized. Like, for me in drama, as a drama student, actresses like are overly sexualized all the time. There's a point where it's still going on now that some actresses have had to sleep their way into good movies, and it like men don't have to do that. And it's the stereotyping of women are objects, women are just made for the kitchen, they're not made for anything else. It's just not right. Like, women are so much more and so much better than what we were years ago.
Yeah, I think that needs to be taken into consideration, how far we've actually come in women's rights. We've got obviously the right to vote and everything now, and throughout the war and everything, more and more women were coming out of the kitchen and going into kind of jobs and that kind of thing. But it is that sexualization of women. Like, we are not just a piece of meat. We're not just there to bear children, to stay in the kitchen, to have sex. We are our own people, and that's kind of what we want to do this year, is empower people to realize that women, you are your own person. You need to stand against the stereotypes, stand out against them. If you want children, you can have children. If you want a job, you can have a job. If you want to have children at 40, 45, and work on your career for years, like, that's absolutely all right. And I think it's that stereotyping that needs to be kind of broken down. I think that's a major barrier to equality that we have right now. Chloe, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Oh yeah, like, I completely agree. I recently got engaged, and the feedback has been really mixed. With me being in uni, people are like, oh, you've got engaged, so does that mean you're dropping out of uni? Are you going to become a housewife? That sort of thing. And I'm like, no, I'm in uni to get my career. I can still get my career. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, so you're getting engaged. Okay, when are the kids coming? And I'm like, whoa, not even said that I want kids. It's sort of like, once I agreed to marry my partner, it was a case of, okay, you're a wife now. And I'm like, okay, well, I can be a wife and have a career, have my own life. I'm still an individual. This isn't 1920. I do not need to get married, have kids, and stay in the house for the rest of my life. I can still be independent, have my own money, build a career, get a doctorate, which is something I really want to work towards.
Yeah.
You know, I am my own person, and I think that sort of expectation of child bearer, housekeeper that attitude really needs to shift, because nobody said to my partner, oh, are you going to be a stay-at-home husband?
Yeah.
Nobody has said that to him, and I don't see why people would say that to me.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing. Is I feel personally pressure on me. Like, lots of people I went to school with and people that I know are having children and moving out with their partners and getting houses, and it's just like, I don't want that personally. I've always wanted to, like, travel, and whenever I say to somebody like, oh, the next, obviously Corona's absolutely messed that up, but whenever anyone's like, oh, you're going to travel for a few years, what are you going to do about kids, what are you going to do about settling down? And I just think it's that stereotype that I have to think about that. If I feel like if it was a lad and you said to a lad, oh, you're going to go travel for a few years, they'd be like, oh, that's amazing. They don't say to them, like, what about children? So why should we have to stop our lives to follow kind of social construction that we all have to follow the same kind of regular steps? And I think that we've worked so hard as women to stop that, and to have equal pay, and to have the vote, and to be able to do what we want to do, that we need to break down them stereotypes now, and really work against it, because there's so many aspects of our life that we are unequal in. So when we're going out, we have to think about what clothes we wear so we don't draw like the wrong attention, so we don't get like held up in clubs, that kind of thing. There's so many things that as women we have to do and think about that men don't have to think about, and I think it's that kind of inequality and stereotyping that we really need to like fight against.
See, that just makes me think of like going back to like the double standards thing. Say if like a girl slept with like 10 people, she's labelled slag, but if a lad slept with 10 girls, he'd be labelled as a lad. And it's like, that's always something that's really annoyed me. And it's like, but why? They've done the exact same thing as each other, but yet your group of friends are saying that, oh, he's amazing, like, wow, all that, and she's getting called a slag, a hoe, she's probably riddled with something. and it's just not, it's not right at all in the slightest, and it shouldn't be what's said. If she wants to go and enjoy her life, you go let her enjoy her life, like leave her be. It's just not right.
Yeah.
But then likewise, if they don't, then they're labelled as prude. There's so many contradictory, there's always something that can be said.
Yeah.
You can be too thin, too large, too tall, too short. Your hair looks better long. Guys like short hair. You're too high maintenance. You should wear makeup. There's so many little jabs that people can get in. It just never seems to end. Like there's always a long list of criticism. And it's like, what gives you the right to comment on my body and my appearance?
Yeah, I think that
I'm entitled to look how I wish to.
That's the thing that I'm trying to tackle this year as well. Me and Charlie have obviously done the body positivity campaign, trying to encourage people to be more happy in their bodies, to kind of distinguish that girls need to follow a stereotypical look, that they need to be small, blonde, curvy, that kind of thing. That you can be, beauty is on a spectrum, it's anything, and one person isn't good looking because they're this or they're that. And I think that that's what we really need to do as women, is empower each other to feel beautiful in our own skins. We don't have to work out, we don't have to go to the gym. I know at the moment there's so much speculation on the internet as that everyone's got to get in the gym and get fit and healthy for summer. Whereas if you want to have a pizza, have a kebab, shouldn't feel guilty about that. And I think as women, we need to empower each other to really feel comfortable in our skin, who we are, what we're wearing, and not fight each other down. I think there's a long step to come as well for women supporting women. We shouldn't be slacking people off saying, oh, you're a slag because you sleep with people, or oh, you're a slag because you're wearing small things out, or wearing short skirts, or wearing little bikini tops. Like, if that's what you want to wear and that's what you want to do, you should do it. And I think that's what equality means for me, is being equally allowed to do what you want. For males, if they wanted to go out in a mankini in a club, they'd get applauded. But if a girl went out in a bikini to a club, she'd get sent home. Like, she wouldn't be able to get into the club. So I think it's that, as you were saying, Ellie, double standards that really need to be tackled. Yeah, so just going on to the next point, let's kind of bring it back to Edge Hill and think about what we've done to achieve equality this year. So has anyone got any ideas or thoughts of what Edge Hill personally have been doing to tackle this?
Yeah, I did some research around this. So Edge Hill has put, we have an equality and diversity policy which has been updated in June 2020, and it really promotes equality. If anyone wants to go give it a read, it's on the Edge Hill website. But it's taken a lot of time to get it to where it is, and they've shared it with students in order to develop it and get their feedback on it, which I think is really nice. And even the smallest things, like they illuminate the main building during equality. Like Women's Week this week, the building will be lit up in suffragette colours, so there'll be purple, white and green, which would be really nice. A big shout out to the psychology department. They are actually the Athena Swan Bronze Award. That's what they've been awarded. And the Athena Swan Award recognises commitment to advancing women's careers in science, technology, engineering, maths and medicine. And it was established by UK Equality Challenge Unit in 2005. I just think it's really nice, and it's great that we've been awarded this bronze award. Edge Hill is also forthcoming in supporting female academics and leadership through offering fully funded places on the Aurora Leadership Scheme, which I think is really nice because it really can help women and us as females like get our education to be a leader, because we can be leaders, and that's how we're going to lead all of us into the future, really, I think.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I've got from Edge Hill is it's a really lovely environment to be a woman in. You get supported and pushed, as well as seeing staff in leadership roles. It kind of encourages you, but I feel like I personally not felt like as a woman I couldn't have done things and progressed as much as other people or other genders, and obviously being women's officer, I'm very grateful that I'm in this role this year. But it's just nice that it's celebrated so well across the university, obviously having the kind of strong history of suffragettes within the university. It's just a lovely environment, I think, to be in. Chloe?
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Just the celebration of Women's Week alone and the ability to have this discussion now just shows how much the university and the Students' Union actually care and how the voices of the students matter. I think there are other universities that don't give our students the same opportunities that perhaps we are having, and just the fact that we're able to sit and have this discussion just shows that the rights of women and like our quality of our time here at Edge Hill actually matters. It shows that we're cared about, and I think as a student that really is important to me.
Yeah, I think this year I've seen that, like, sometimes you think that if you're going to bring something up to the SU, it might not get acted on, but that's definitely not the case. And I've obviously had lots of students coming to me with ideas and suggestions, and we do them, and we take them on board. For example, obviously the period poverty campaign, having free sanitary products across the university was a big, massive thing that past officers have brought into place. But I had a lot of feedback of people saying that they felt uncomfortable having them in such a public area, which is an issue in itself, because we should be able to just happily promote period and that kind of thing. But so I then brought it up and said, like, people's are wanting them in the cubicles, and that's something that has progressed now and that has happened. So I think it's lovely to know that the university really takes on, and the SU really takes on people's and pupils' kind of ideas and acts on them. So I think that's a really nice thing to be involved with, really. So yeah, just moving on to the next thing is, obviously we want to choose to challenge this year. We want to challenge gender inequality, gender bias. But I think for me personally, and for others, it might be difficult to know how to do that. And there's not a said answer for this. But I just wondered, what advice would you give to somebody about challenging gender inequality and gender bias? What kind of things would you tell them to do? Ellie, do you want to start off?
Yeah, well, it literally says it in the title, choose to challenge. Like, if you see something that is not right at all, like someone being harassed in the club or anywhere for that matter, say something. Like I said before, nothing's going to change if it's not challenged. I've had it before when I've been out to Alpine with my friends, and my friends are like smaller than me, and it's so we were just dancing on the dance floor, and this like man was like dancing behind my friend, like really like feeling her up and anything. And bear in mind, it is like close proximity environment and all that, but it was like grinding on her, and I couldn't take it anymore, and I just had to like step in front and like move her to the side and be like, "What are you playing at? Like, it's not." And like, I dread to think like what would have happened maybe if I went to the toilet and left her by herself. It's that scaredness. I'm not saying that something would have happened to her, but you never know. We live in a world where everything's very scary. Women are scared to walk alone at night, and it's not right. So if you do see something, challenge it and empower your other women. If a woman's saying something to a man, empower her. Tell her, yeah, you go, girl. You tell him that he's wrong.
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing. Is we need to make it so it's wrong. Like racism now, there's no way that I would ever think about being racist ever. And in this society, I think that we've come quite a far way with racism. I think it's the same that needs to happen for kind of like sexist remarks and sexist actions. Is it needs to just be completely wiped out. Like, it's not acceptable. But a lot of it isn't, I think, is unconscious. Like, for example, say if me and my boyfriend walked up to a bar, the bartender would instantly go to him for the money. They'd ask him for the order and I'd ask him for the money. And it's that kind of unconscious bias and gender stereotyping that I think needs to be also challenged. So yes, if somebody's being horrible to your friend or grinding on them or saying like horrible things to them or normal and them up inappropriately, like, yes, call that out 100%. But I think it's all the time to call out unconscious stuff, so stuff that people might not realize they're doing, and being like, actually, you need to change that kind of attitude that you've got, or else we're not gonna reach any type of equal society. So Chloe, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I think with like this challenge, of course, it's so important, and like I said, setting your own boundaries and challenging people that disrespect them, so important. And like, I know how scary it can be, but it's also so empowering, not only to stick up for yourself, but to stick up for other women and to say, hey, look, we deserve to be comfortable. There shouldn't ever be a time where, as a woman, you feel vulnerable and unsafe, regardless of what you're wearing, what you look like, who you're with, and where you are. So just having the confidence to stick up for other women, stick up for yourself, and tackle things head on. Like, don't be afraid to get loud, get shouty, take up space. You're more than entitled to voice those grievances. And yeah, you might get backlash, but it's every little step helps towards bringing gender equity into fruition.
Yeah, I think it's that stereotyping that women are the weaker sex. I think that needs to go. Like, we are no means any different, any weaker, or any less powerful than men, and we need to stand out against that and empower other women to realise that we are all strong, we are beautiful, we may all be sexy, like, we can be whatever we want to be, and there's nobody should try and bring us down for that. And I think that's something that really needs to be empowered and pushed onto people, is that we are all wonderful, beautiful people. And yeah, I think that it's a really big thing. So hopefully that's our message put across. So I'd just like to thank you all for this discussion. It's been really nice to hear your kind of opinions on it, and hopefully that people will take on board the kind of questions that we've given.
Yeah,
thank you so much for hosting.
We enjoyed it.